No Way Out: The Hunt for Confederate Gold by Jason Hamilton Hicks. Chapter 1: The Reunion and the Map. The year is 1867. The air inside the dusty Texas tavern is thick with tobacco smoke and the scent of cheap whiskey. Outside, the harsh frontier sun beats down on the dirt road. In a dark corner booth, 4 war-weary men sit in silence. They haven't seen each other since the conflict ended. Talon Smith, a sharp-eyed ex-Union scout, raises his glass. His eyes scan the room, looking for any danger. Next to him sits John Blade Williams, a former Confederate cavalryman who still wears his old battered boots. Blade reaches inside his heavy canvas coat and pulls out a dented iron lockbox. He places it on the wooden table with a heavy thud. Jacob Martyr, a brilliant local tracker who knows every canyon in the state, leans forward. Across from him, the calm camp medic, Cole Maddox, watches intently. Blade uses a small pocket knife to pry open the rusted lock. Inside lies a piece of yellowed, brittle parchment. It is an encrypted military map. Blade whispers to the group, explaining that fleeing officers hid millions in gold bullion in the deep canyons before the Union Army could seize it. Talon looks at the map, then at Blade. The war is over, and the past no longer matters. They need this fortune to rebuild their lives. Jacob Martyr traces his weathered finger along the faded ink lines on the map. He notes that the path leads directly into the treacherous, jagged canyons of the Texas Hill Country, a place crawling with outlaws, thieves, and dangerous terrain. Cole Maddox nods slowly, checking the medical supplies in his leather pack. They all know the risks, but the promise of a fresh start is too powerful to ignore. The 4 friends raise their glasses together, sealing a sacred pact to split the gold equally and protect each other's lives at all costs. As the sun dips below the horizon and painting the sky in deep shades of orange and purple, they pay the bartender and slip out the back door. They tighten the saddles on their horses, mount up, and ride hard into the cool, moonlit wilderness, officially beginning their high-stakes hunt. Chapter 2: The First Obstacle. The morning sun rises hot over the Texas plains. Talon Smith leads the group through a dense thicket of trees. Ahead lies their first major landmark, a crumbling, abandoned plantation house near a wide river crossing. The roof has collapsed, and weeds choke the old porch. Suddenly, Jacob Martyr raises his hand, signaling everyone to stop. He points to fresh boot prints and hoof tracks in the mud. Before they can wheel their horses around, a loud gunshot echoes through the trees. A bullet punches through the wood near Talon's head. A ruthless band of rogue Union deserters, turned bandits, emerges from the ruins. They are heavily armed and desperate. Their leader, a scarred man with a stolen military rifle, spots Blade's leather map case and shouts for his men to surround the 4 friends. "Take cover!" John Blade Williams roars. He draws his sidearm and fires back, hitting a bandit's shoulder. The friends dive off their horses behind a fallen stone wall as bullets rain down around them. Cole Maddox unclips his rifle, firing precise shots to keep the bandits pinned down. The shootout is loud and chaotic, gunpowder smoke filling the humid air. The bandits are closing in fast from both sides. Jacob Martyr scans the rushing river behind them. He spots a narrow, hidden path of shallow rocks masked by thick river reeds. "Follow me!" Jacob yells over the gunfire. They make a break for the water, dragging their horses. But a stray bullet strikes the rope of their pack mule. The terrified animal bolts into the deep water, sinking their heavy camp supplies and extra food to the bottom of the river. Talon fires a final warning shot, forcing the bandit leader back into the ruins. The four friends plunge their horses through the hidden rocky crossing, struggling against the strong current. They break through to the opposite bank just as the bandits realize they've been outsmarted. Dripping wet and down a mule, but with the map safe in Blade's coat, they ride hard into the dense woods, leaving the bandits behind. Chapter 3. The Treacherous Path. The flat plains give way to the jagged, baking canyons of the Texas hill country. Deep orange rock walls tower over the foreriders, blocking out the wind. Jacob Martyr leads the horses along a narrow cliffside trail that drops off into a steep ravine below. The heat is punishing, and their water is running dangerously low after losing the supply mule. Every step forward feels like a battle against the frontier. Suddenly, the echo of galloping hoofbeats bounces off the canyon walls behind them. Talon Smith dismounts and peers through his brass spyglass. A cloud of dust reveals a heavily armed posse tracking them. At the front rides a corrupt regional reconstruction marshal, a greedy man known for using his badge to steal land. The marshal has caught wind of the secret Confederate map and wants the millions for himself. "They're moving fast, and they'll corner us on this ledge," Talon warns, his voice grim. The trail ahead is too exposed to outrun them on horseback. John Blade Williams grips the reins, looking for a defensive position. If the posse catches them here, they will be trapped against the cliff with nowhere to dive for cover. They need a miracle or a very clever distraction to buy them some time. Cole Maddox smiles grimly and pulls a small wooden box of black gunpowder from his saddlebag. He mixes it with damp leaves and dry brush inside an old metal coffee pot, creating a makeshift smoke bomb. Jacob Martyr takes two of their horses and leads them down a false path to create fresh tracks, while Cole lights the fuse. Thick, blinding white smoke pours out, filling the narrow canyon bottleneck behind them. The marshal's posse charges into the heavy smoke screen, coughing and blinded. They spot Jacob's decoy tracks and roar down the wrong canyon split, believing they are hot on the friends' heels. Meanwhile, Talon, Blade, Jacob, and Cole quietly slip their horses down a steep, hidden deer trail on the opposite side of the ridge. They escape into the shadows of the lower ravine, completely vanishing from the marshal's sight. Chapter 4. The Discovery and the Final Showdown. Deep inside a shadowy ravine, Jacob Martyr pushes aside a thick wall of tangled briars. Hidden behind the brush is the dark, yawning mouth of a limestone cave. The four friends ignite a pitch pine torch and step inside. The air is cold and damp. At the very back of the cavern, half buried under loose dirt, sit three rotting wooden army crates marked with faded red paint. The treasure is finally real. John Blade Williams smashes the lid of the first crate with his boot. The torchlight reflects off dozens of heavy, glittering bars of solid Confederate gold bullion. But their cheers are cut short by a cold voice echoing from the entrance. The corrupt marshal and the scarred bandit leader step out of the shadows, their rifles leveled. They had teamed up, tracking the fresh hoofprints straight to the cave. "Drop your weapons and step away from my gold," the marshal sneers with a wicked grin. The friends are completely cornered against the back wall of the cave. Smith slowly lowers his hands, pretending to surrender, while his eyes scan the ceiling. He notices a cluster of loose, cracked boulders hanging directly above the narrow entrance tunnel. He catches Blade's eye and gives a subtle nod toward the roof. Suddenly, Talon kicks the burning torch straight into the bandit leader's face, plunging the cave into chaotic darkness. Gunfire erupts. The muzzle flashes lighting up the cavern like lightning. Cole Maddox and Jacob Martyr dive for cover behind the heavy gold crates, firing back to pin the enemies down. Blade roars, drawing his heavy revolver and aiming high at the cracked boulders above the tunnel. Blade's heavy bullets strike the fragile rock ceiling. With a deafening roar, the entrance tunnel collapses in a massive avalanche of stone and dust. The falling boulders completely trap the screaming marshal and bandits on the other side of the cave-in, blocking them off. Coughing through the thick dust, the four friends quickly grab the gold bars, load them onto their horses, and slip out through a tiny hidden exit at the back. Chapter 5. A New Dawn. The cool night air finally breaks as the four men emerge from the narrow mountain exit. Behind them, the sounds of the trapped marshal and his bandits fade into nothingness. Talon Smith leads his horse up a steep, grassy incline, reaching the peak of a high, majestic ridge. The heavy weight of the war years feels like it is finally lifting from his shoulders as he breathes in the fresh air. The morning sun breaks over the vast Texas frontier, painting the open sky in brilliant streaks of gold and crimson. Tied securely to the back of their horses, the heavy wooden crates jingle softly with every step. John Blade Williams dismounts and pats his stallion's neck. He looks back at the rugged canyons they'd just conquered, knowing that nobody is following them anymore. They are finally safe. Jacob Martyr unties the leather straps and opens the crates, letting the bright morning sunlight reflect off the rows of solid gold bullion. The treasure is magnificent, enough to buy land, cattle, and a fresh start for all of them. Yet, as the four friends stand together on the ridge, nobody reaches for the gold right away. They simply look at each other, a quiet understanding passing between them. Block, se, sevidarshitu characters. We actually did it, Cole Maddox says softly, a rare smile breaking across his weary face. He talks about opening a real medical clinic in a quiet town. Jacob wants to buy a peaceful ranch, and Blade plans to start a legitimate shipping business. Talon looks at his brothers in arms, realizing that surviving together and forging this unbreakable bond of loyalty was the real fortune they won out in those canyons. They divide the glittering gold bars equally among their packs, ensuring everyone has enough to build their dreams. With a final, heartfelt look of gratitude, the four friends mount their horses. They turn away from the dark shadows of their past and ride side by side down the ridge, disappearing into the bright, endless horizon of the open frontier. Their war is over, and a beautiful new dawn has finally begun.